Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite tournament or GPP plays for this Week 6 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of my cheat sheet, breaking down a couple of game stacks that I like targeting in tournaments this week, as well as some of my favorite individual plays and stacks. But before we dive into those plays, everyone, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly does help me out, and it's completely free to do. And speaking of free, I do run a free Discord channel as well. You can see that mentioned above. We have over 850 people in there today talking multiple different sports for DFS and sports betting. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment below. With that being said, let's dive into a couple of game stacks that I like targeting here this week, starting with this game between the 49ers and Buccaneers. Now, we do need to wait for a little injury news here on the 49ers side of things. I don't believe we'll see Ricky Pearsall play this week, but Jauan Jennings is listed as questionable, so we'll keep an eye on that. I like running it from the Buccaneers side here with Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka, and Sterling Shepard. Chris Godwin's not going to play here this week, still no Mike Evans, so you're basically stacking Baker here with his top two pass catchers. You could probably include Cade Otton in that mix as well, but I prefer going with Shepard here at $3,800. He's seen some decent volume in every game so far this season, plus you got the quarterback-wide receiver connection dating back to college, and then running back here with Christian McCaffrey. He's basically a wide receiver who runs the ball as well, $8,400. He will be popular, especially in cash lineups. If you have not watched my favorite cash plays video yet, make sure you go do that. And then we're going to roll here with the tight end and Tonjes as well. $3,700, very affordable to kind of bring down the average salary in this stack. And he looked good in week 5 with Mac Jones under center. If we get Jauan Jennings to miss this game as well, on top of Ricky Pearsall, it's not official as I record this, it should mean that he sees some decent volume again here this week. So overall, I like this game in general and think there's some shootout potential there. And then another game stack that I like targeting here this week is this game between the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys. And I do believe you're going to see some people run it out on the Carolina side of things with Bryce Young. I don't hate it because this Cowboys defense is really bad. One of the worst in the NFL. Maybe this is a week where we kind of get one of those quarterbacks in the 4K range, aka Bryce Young, to win us a tournament or put us towards the top. So I'm not opposed to that, but I really do like the Dallas side more. Stacking up Dak Prescott here with George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. His top two pass catchers. Fergie's just been tremendous ever since CeeDee Lamb went out. He should be able to beat up on this Carolina defense. And the same thing here with George Pickens. You're going to see Javonte Williams be very popular, so I'm kind of pivoting away from that and getting a little more unique here on the tournament side of things. Running it back here with Rico Dowdle. You got the revenge game narrative there, but more so, really liked how he looked in week 5, and Chuba Hubbard has been listed as out for week 6. And then we're going to put in McMillan here. If we don't want to do a double stack on the Carolina side of things, I am 100% okay just going Dak here, George Pickens, Fergie, running it back with Rico and getting out of that game. But if you believe there's some shootout potential here, and I do, I kind of like McMillan as well. And again, this is a great matchup for him to kind of have one of those blow-up games against this Dallas defense because they are truly horrid. Now, folks, before we dive into some of these individual plays and stacks here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, again, I would greatly appreciate that. Completely free to do, and every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave here truly does help me out. All right, now diving into some of these individual plays and stacks here, I'm going to go back to Spencer Rattler. Talked about him in my tournament plays video last week. Love the price here, obviously, at $4,700. Don't mind the matchup at home against the New England Patriots, but he is truly a decent quarterback. If you go watch him play, he's got an NFL arm for sure. He just doesn't have the best team in front of him. O-line isn't the greatest. And again, he's just super cheap here, right? If I'm shooting for 4x value, this is a guy who can get me 20 DraftKings points. He's already done that so far this year. I like stacking him up with Rashid Shaheed and kind of getting out of that game. Maybe you run it back with a Stephon Diggs, but overall, I just kind of like this spot here for Spencer Rattler, and I think he's a decent quarterback. And then one guy that I got here as an honorable mention is Jordan Love. Now, if I knew that Cincinnati could keep this game tight, maybe they can with Joe Flacco, it might be one that I want to game stack, but my cause for concern here is that won't be the case. Flacco coming in on a short week with a new team. He's got great wide receivers. Just get Jamar Chase and T. Higgins the ball, but is that really going to happen? We don't know, right? That's football for us. But if I just look at this from an overall matchup perspective, Yeah, this is a good spot for Jordan Love. That Cincinnati Bengals defense is truly brutal. One of the worst secondaries in the NFL. Number of different ways you could stack it up with Jordan Love. I like Matthew Golden and Tucker Kraft, but you could put in Romeo Doubs there too. $6,200 really catches my attention as well, but my cause for concern here is the game isn't a shootout. Packers get out to an early lead, kind of lean on their defense and Josh Jacobs, and Love doesn't have to throw the ball all that much. So he's an honorable mention. I am considering it, and I kind of hope that game turns into a shootout because it would be a fun one to stack up. Next, we got the running backs here, and as I record this on Friday, Jonathan Taylor is not getting enough love, coming in around 13% projected ownership, whereas someone like Christian McCaffrey's floating around 25%. He's way too unpopular considering what he's done so far this year at home in a good matchup against Arizona. I'll absolutely take advantage of that in my tournament lineups. I like Judkins here for the Cleveland Browns, really just a stud of a football player. Now with Dylan Gabriel under center, I don't necessarily love that for the offense in the Cleveland Browns, but I mentioned this in the first look video earlier this week. Judkins played very well last week against Minnesota and had a touchdown called back actually, so at $5,900, I like the price. I love the volume he's been getting, 25 plus opportunities in his last 2 games. So yeah, he's a tournament consideration for me because he's not going to be super popular this week. Kyren Williams could be popular. That's why he's listed as an honorable mention. I'm kind of hoping here with the Chuba Hubbard news this afternoon that he's not going to play. Kind of bumps Kyren Williams down, but people are looking at this price at $6,300 and the matchup against the Baltimore Ravens and going, why wouldn't I play this guy? So he is going to be relatively popular here, at least he is as I record this on Friday, but if we start to see him move down the list in projected ownership, I'm going to love that in tournaments. We then got the wide receivers here, and I talked about this game already between the Packers and Cincinnati. I think there's a sliver of shootout potential here. Joe Flacco could very well just come in and say, you know what, I am going to pepper one of the best wide receivers in the NFL 15 times today. And that could work out, right? Because Jamar Chase is truly that good. And even T. Higgins, you could put him in the mix as well. Honestly, I could probably put Joe Flacco here as a tournament consideration. He's only $4,000. But overall, I talked about Jamar Chase last week. He went off in that game, 2+ touchdowns. And I'm looking at the projected ownership here as of Friday. He's coming in around 5% projected ownership. Way too low considering the upside that he offers. Devontae Adams, really good spot here against the Baltimore Ravens. Another wide receiver I thought would get steamed up in ownership a bit this week, but that is not the case. I liked what I saw from the Titans offense in the second half of last week's game, and Ridley in particular. He came out in an interview I think 2 weeks ago and just said, I need to play better. Well, he did play better last week, and I think he could continue that this week in a good matchup against the Raiders. Rashid Shaheed, my favorite stacking piece with Spencer Rattler. You could mix in a Chris Olave or Jawan Johnson, but Shaheed, he's that tournament guy, right? Might only see 4 to 6 targets in this game, but can score from anywhere on the field, and we saw an example of that just last week. Brian Thomas Jr., he's burned us, right? We took him on the turn in fantasy football for season log this year in the second round. He has not been great in DFS this year, but over the last 2 weeks, we've seen some positive signs, him just playing better. And the secondary right now for the Seahawks is beat up. It sounds like Tariq Woolen could play here this week, but Witherspoon has been basically ruled as out. I think Love, the same thing, their safety. So if we get word that Woolen is not going to play as well, I kind of like Brian Thomas Jr. The talent is obviously still there. He's just maybe dealing with some confidence issues. And then going back to that game, with the Packers in Cincinnati, Matthew Golden, just like Rashid Shaheed, he is the deep threat guy, can score from anywhere on the field, and he is going to do that sooner than later in a Packers uniform. When it comes to the tight ends this week, I talked about quite a few of my cash plays videos, so make sure you go check that out if you haven't. Those guys are going to be mixed into my tournament lineups as well. Tucker Kraft here, though, didn't talk about him in my cash plays video, and love him on the tournament side of things. Obviously, just a really good spot here for the Green Bay Packers at home against the Cincinnati Bengals, and he really is terrific with the ball in his hands after the catch. He's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. David Njoku here, usually a guy who floats in the upper 4K range. Slow start to the season, but we really saw Dillon Gabriel lean on him last week against the Minnesota Vikings, and I like the upside he offers at $3,500. And then Hunter Henry here at $4,300. Do like this matchup against the New Orleans Saints. He's one of those guys who could score multiple touchdowns in any given game. We've already seen that so far this year, so we know the ceiling that he offers at this price. And then we'll wrap it up here with the defenses. We got the Steelers taking on a rookie quarterback in Dillon Gabriel. I will roster a defense taking on a rookie quarterback pretty much any given week, unless that rookie quarterback is balling out, aka Jackson Dart. We got the Colts here taking on Kyler Murray, who's been banged up throughout the week with a foot injury. He is practicing on Friday, but don't really love that for the Arizona Cardinals. We got the Titans here taking on Geno Smith, who has looked brutal so far this season. He's also missing his starting left tackle. And then we also got the Saints here at $2,400. You know, I've talked about how I do like the New England Patriots in both my cash plays and tournament videos here today, but at $2,400, we're essentially punting at this price, and the Saints haven't been the worst defense in the NFL. I think I'd prefer the Titans there, but the Titans are also going to be a lot more popular than the Saints, so if we're looking for a little leverage in our tournament lineups, the Saints could offer that if we're punting. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks, and let's win some money on this Week 6 NFL main slate.